Hey everyone, it's Danielle. It's Tuesday and you're watching The Revolution. This week we're talking about fears, the fears that we have and how they've affected our lives, as well as the things that we've done to combat those fears. After numerous takes, I decided to talk about one major fear instead of listing all of my fears. And that one major, significant, extremely integral part of shaping who I am today and how I live life and view life is death. When I was 20, I had a 15-year-old cousin who was killed in a drunk driving accident, and it had been the first unexpected death in the family, as well as tragic. Up until that point, I had been to funerals, but they were of grandparents, and they were old, and you just expected them to die because when you're old, you die. The first significant death that I experienced, and it was a doozy. About a year after she had died, oh, I should first note that the following year after her death, I was in a fog. I was walking around waiting for the next person to die. It was a really shitty way to live, and I was extremely anxious and I was just so fearful of death, and I don't know. So a year after she had passed away, my uncle had decided to write a book because he was inspired from her funeral, seeing so many people there, and his questioning was, how did such a young person know and affect so many people in her short time here on Earth? He opens the book by saying that we need to start at the end, begin with the end. Basically, it's a little visualization technique, thinking about your funeral. Who is there? Who do you want to be there? What are they talking about? Are people sad? Are people happy? Are they talking about good times, bad times? How do you want to be remembered? I took this and I ran with it, and trying to figure out what was important to me. I started questioning the meaning of life, the purpose, what are our purposes? You question because you want to know what your next step is. What do you want to do in this life, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do. Nothing seemed important. I wanted to go to cosmetology school, but how insignificant is your hair and makeup? Even though today I love it and appreciate it, and I think making people feel beautiful in their own skin is a extremely important thing. At the time I was like, this is so pointless. We are just none of this matters. The thing I couldn't get my head around was not just what happens when you die, because that's a whole nother topic, but what happens to the people living. This is a really difficult topic for me to talk about because I can go on and on and on, and I don't want to publish a 15-minute video. I didn't want to accept that once you died, that was it. You were just gone. Nothing you did ever mattered, blah, blah, blah. Even though I know that's not true. Trying to figure out what was significant. Everything boiled down to the only thing that's important is our relationships with people. How we make them feel. How others make us feel. And that's how we live on. That's what's significant, is we live on through others because we shape them. We all shape each other. So what I wanted to do was focus on my relationships. I wanted to get to know the people in my family on a personal level, and not just a, yo, what's the holidays, how's it going level. What I decided to do was I wanted to focus on cultivating my relationships with, first and foremost, my parents and my brother and sister. I wanted them to know me, and I wanted to know them, and I wanted us to play significant roles in each other's lives, right? I have a sister who is 12 years younger than me. I think she's 12 years younger. And I remember when I was in 5th grade, so this goes back. This is just part of how I am. But when I was in 5th grade, I remember hanging out in the bathroom with the girls during lunch, and some of them were talking about how they are an aunt, and I was confused by that, and they said that they had older siblings who were married and had children. That just dumbfounded me because I just didn't understand it. My sister wasn't born at this point. They said that they didn't know them. That that always stuck with me because I'm like, how would you not know your brother or your sister? You know? So when my sister was born, I'm like, oh, we're going to know each other. Because I'm 12 years older than her, when I could have gone away to college, I chose not to because I wanted to be at home and with her. I went to community college so that we could still build our relationships and so we could know each other. And this is around the time that my cousin died. My focus was heavily on my family. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but I moved in with my grandmother to help take care of her because she had just been diagnosed with cancer and she was living alone, so I moved in with her. That was one of the best times of my life because I got to know her. My grandmother wasn't just the parent to my parents, but she was a part of my life. You know, we knew each other. I turned to her for different things. I can say that I had a relationship with her. And not everybody gets to say that. What I noticed that people were doing my age was everyone just wanted to be away from their family, and I wanted to be closer to my family. And so that's what I focused on. I focused on building personal, like close personal relationships with my parents. I wanted to get to know them as people and not just as my parents. What I can say is that that's one of the things I'm most proud of in my life. You know, other people can be proud or are proud that they got an A on an essay or were awarded something, but I'm most proud that I dedicated time to getting to know the two people that raised me as human beings and not just as my parents, right? They're not just there for me, but that they lived these entire lives before I existed. That's one of my greatest accomplishments. I feel that way about my brother and sister as well. I'm extremely close with my cousins. I'm just proud. I'm proud of that. Along my journey, I learned that just because someone is a family member doesn't mean that you have to like them. It doesn't mean that they're automatically a good person. That was a fun experience, or is a fun experience, and how we change. And I don't know. I've just learned so much, and I'm glad at the road I decided to go down. Because I see so many people, most people around me that run from those things, and then what brings them together is them having children. You do hear that people, they say once they have their own child, then they have this newfound respect for their parents. If and when I do have children, I mean, I'm sure it'll intensify it, but I have close personal relationships with the folks that raised me. Rounding all of this off, one of the most significant fears in my life has been surrounded by death. And it started when I was 20 with the passing of my cousin. I didn't mention when my grandmother ended up dying, but that threw me for another loop. I think, though, that I conveyed what I wanted to say, which was because of the experiences of death in my, like, close deaths in my life, I decided to, even though I was fearful of more people dying, I decided to do what I needed to do in order to, I guess it comes down to feeling okay when they do pass away. That I know that I did everything and said everything that I wanted to say while they were alive, because I did not and do not want to have regrets in that aspect. I don't want to wish that I could have said something, which I should mention that my grandmother passed away when I was 23, and I've grown a lot since then. And now, even though at the time I did everything I could, I'm wishing that I had more time with her, because I would have liked to delve in deeper into who she was as a person. Because she's from a completely different generation, and the way that they lived their lives was very different. She was a very reserved, closed off person, right? So it's not a regret, but it's a thing that I wish that I had been able, like, there were specific questions I wish I could have asked her, but I didn't have at the time, you know what I mean? So that's it. I'm sure I'm going to think of more. I find myself that mostly once I finish talking, I think about all of these different things and I want to make another video, but this channel isn't just mine, and so I can't keep just talking. So I would like to have conversation in the comment section if you're interested. I think that's it. Have a good week. Give everyone that you love a hug. Some people aren't huggers. I'm a hugger. I like touching. And say what you need to say, because it's important, and we don't have an unlimited amount of time, you know, and there's not going to be anything worse than the regrets you have once someone dies that you're close to, you know. Say what you need to say. Have a great week.